A reading from Matthew, chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. For it is as if a man, going on a journey, summoned his slaves, and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had the 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Then the one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But the master replied, You wicked and lazy slave, you knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow, and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him, and give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all of those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. In my experience, 2 specific phrases can take responsibility for the failure of churches everywhere. Well, we've always done it that way, and but we need to keep it looking nice. The first speaks to a lack of awareness of how the Spirit of God moves and shifts over time. The latter looks a lot like burying your 1 talent in the sand. I live in a 1950s ranch-style home, so the builders built it for an era where each family needed 2 sitting areas, a living room and a den. Maybe in the 1950s both rooms got used a fair amount, but I grew up not in the 1950s, but still in an era where people felt the need to have a formal sitting area and an informal sitting area. I observed that for most people this meant they had a sitting area that got used, the informal one, and one that exclusively gathered dust, the formal one. Churches are far worse offenders in this than the average homeowner. Wesley Community Development, a ministry of the Western North Carolina Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church, helps churches figure out how to best use their spaces and properties to maximize their impact for God's kingdom. As part of their process, they analyze the total square footage a church has and then look at how each space gets used. The shocking fact is that most church space they look at sits unused as much as 90% of the time. We have huge gathering spaces that we call sanctuaries. We use them 1 to 4 hours per week. The same goes for our community spaces and classrooms. Churches tend to have activities in limited time bands, and outside of those bands, the spaces sit unused. Some of this stems from us needing to think about new potential activities and ministries or community partners that could use the space, needing to expand our imaginations. However, in my experience, we might have a deeper spiritual issue. In the following stories, details have been altered to protect the innocent. A small but active, medium-sized church has just built a new activities building. They spent a lot on it, and built it to a high degree of polish. The whole project grew out of the fact that they'd fundamentally outgrown their tiny kitchen. They feed dozens of children per week, host massive community meals, and hold several major food-based fundraisers every year. Upon completion of the new building, with its huge, well-equipped, and shiny new kitchen, the head of the kitchen team of the weekday children's ministry comes to the pastor and says, "I think that we will just keep using the old kitchen. We don't want to mess up the new one." They leveraged the entire financial future of their church for a kitchen that they weren't going to use? Why have this incredible kitchen if not to use it? A church, large in facility but small in membership, has fundamentally overbuilt. They built thinking that growth would come, but for a lot of reasons, growth did not occur. Recent changes in the life of the congregation have brought new life, and a new ESL ministry is about to launch. The ESL folks will use the Sunday school classrooms on a weekday evening. An important leader in the congregation pulls the pastor aside. The conversation escalates, until the leader's true concern comes out. "They're messing up everything in the classrooms," he bellows. The ESL folks had not done anything of the sort. They had rearranged some things, and moved some of their stuff into the space. Why do minor changes feel like a space being destroyed? We call it not wanting things to get messed up, but it's burying our talents in the ground rather than using them for the kingdom. During the communist period in Russia, they converted prominent churches into museums of atheism. But if we take our unwillingness to let our spaces be used to its logical extreme, we end up operating museums of theism. Museums seek preservation above all else. Churches use their talents to bring an increase. In 2014, I went to the cathedral in León, Spain, as part of a journey along the Camino de Santiago. Like many old European churches, it operates more as a literal museum than an active house of worship. However, León Cathedral took this to an unusual degree. You had to pay to even enter the small side chapel set aside for prayer. I don't know a lot of churches who have gone this far. A literal pay-to-pray scheme. Still, it's all the same logic, and only different in terms of extent. We have nice things. We must preserve them. We want to show God how seriously we value God's gifts. Let's bury them so that they don't get lost or damaged. The following story has not been modified to protect anyone. Smith Chapel had an annual cowboy-themed Christmas play. It felt strange to me as a Texas boy in the mountains of northwest Georgia, but they got a kick out of it. The church doesn't have a ton of space, but what they do have has been maintained. Things get painted, the carpets get restretched, new roofs get put on as needed. Everything looks nice, but not too nice. For the cowboy Christmas play, every inch of the sanctuary is liable to rearrangement. I made them take the altar out because it looked like it was about to get used as the bar for the saloon, and even for me, that felt like a bridge too far. Stuff got scuffed in the process. This would happen on a Saturday night, and we'd have to push to restore things back for Sunday morning. We had to fix and patch and put back together. Yet, each year that I got to be a part of it, it was standing room only in that little sanctuary. As it says in Matthew chapter 25, verse 29, "For to all of those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away."